attribute. If attribute information are not given, you need to find common information of each entity. Okay, from report, from the document, by discussing with your customer. Then, location actually is not the single location. This is a single location, but this is not. This is locations. So in case of multiple values, like the location, how many name? One name. How many number? One number. How many manager? One manager. How many? All of them are one, but location is multiple. In case of multiple value, we will use double over. I will explain later why we specify such a multiple value.
Name can be multiple. For multiple data, multiple records.
Can you find any multiple? Maybe, but not in this description. Our database design purely based on this, not our experience. Okay? I know there's a common mistake in real life system also. I believe the interest rate is blah blah blah. Actually, this company not. Who is responsible? You are responsible. Such a thing. So only believe the customer, the information provided by your customer. Okay. So this is in case of the. It's clearly mentioned. A department may have several locations. So in case of multiple value, it's a double rectangle. There is other, in addition to this information, for your better understanding, sometimes address can be detailed, like the street number, street name, and zip code, the town name, town or city name, something like that. Okay? In case you can make the details of that, this is called composite attribute. Composite is different from the multi-value. Right? It's a one value, but it can be decomposed. In case of it's being able to decompose, you can use such a tree structure to represent that. In this case, it's not mentioned. However, while you are doing the application analysis, if your application program accesses separately, you can add this kind of information. Yes?
Do you recommend that we should follow international standards in such cases? Like it would be more convenient to have.
If your customer has the international company, you need to consider. But in this small company, they never mention about such a thing.
Yeah, but what about convenience? Convenience.
For convenience, it's up to you. You are responsible for that. If you never use such a things in your application program, you don't have it. Right? It's just a local company. It's a convenience store. At the time, do you need to international standard of this one? No, US standard is quite enough. So this is also possible. This is called composite attribute. One more thing. This is very important. Later, let's say we have a department entities, then we decide the department entity type. So department entity. How can you identify each department? How can you identify? Using department name, can you identify the specific department?
No. Yes.
What about in this description? They don't mention about whether this is unique name or not. But in common sense, they do not make the in LUB. Is there any another computer science department? That doesn't make sense, right? Even though Professor Lee said, do not believe common sense, you're knowledge, so duplicate name. So name can be used to identify the department. However, what about the employee name? Where's the name? Name. Employee name may not. You cannot use the employee name to identify specific employee. What about the number? Number is definite. So in case you can identify each data entity, that attribute is called key attribute. Then you can use underline. What can be the key attribute of employee? Social security. What about project? Project name is already mentioned, unique name. What about number? It's also. How many key attributes? Sometimes one, sometimes you have many key attributes. That's normal. What about this dependent? What is the key attribute? Relationship? Father, mother. There are a lot of dependent. Father, mother.
Name and relationship.
Name?
And relationship.
Relationship?
Birthday.
For example, we have the Nicholas
Name and relationship.
and father. Another Nicholas, your son, is also Nicholas and father. You can identify. Date of birth? Unfortunately, they born in the same day. There is no number here. No way. Sometimes entity does not have key attribute. That's true. This is not a database. We don't know anything about the database yet. Somebody may be curious. I know something primary key or something key. Forget about that. This is just a key used in ER model. In ER model, no problem if there is no key. Okay? So there is no key. Only this name can be used by this duplicate. So this will be discussed later. So before that, so sometimes you have the many keys, you can underline separately. Sometimes one. Okay, if you are not sure, do not select this attribute as a key. Okay? Unless it's clearly mentioned. What about, suppose that if name plus number is unique, name plus number, then you can identify the department. At the time you can underline connected. So composite key. Composite key also possible. It doesn't have to be single attribute, it can be multiple attributes together for one key. In this case, it's just one key. Then you can connect. So this is the attribute. You can do up to this one. This is the second step.
In the dependent entity, are we missing any attribute?
Which one?
Dependent entity.
Oh, dependent. This attribute, but no key.
No, it says an attribute relationship to the employee.
Relationship to the employee.
To the which employee? Because there may be many employees. So to which
But
employee?
that is just attribute information. What is the example? Father,
So that's what.
mother. Yes.
To which employee it means?
We don't know. We don't care. Okay? That will be discussed later. So this is just nothing but relationship. So this is up to the second step. First step, identify entity. Actually, entity type. Then identify attribute of each entity. In case of the multiple value are allowed, it's a double the over that represents multi-value attribute. In case of the composite, you can use the tree structure to represent composite attribute. If you can find the key attribute, you can underline key attribute. It can be multiple keys or sometimes not. Also, it can be composite attribute. Okay, that is the second step. The third step is
Relationship.
find the relationship. What is the name of this modeling? ER modeling. We already did half of them. Entity, relationship, modeling. ER modeling. So entity we done. However, if you see the requirement, for example, each employee who manages the department, actually this manager is not just manager who belongs to employee, right? Some of employees are manager, so it's not. In other words, it can be there's a lead, there's also lead over here, right? It's a redundant information. So we can find the relationship between department and employee that is managed. So we can actually find relationship between employee and department that is managed. Employee manage department. An employee manage the department. So, for example, lead manage the HR. Pater manages payroll. Clinton manages CS department. Each of them is called relationship. Later, you can find all of left-hand side. This is employee. And right-hand side, department. So, employee manage department. This is called relationship type. So, third step is to find relationship type, like the entity type. How can you find? You can list up all relationship like that. Lead, manage, HR, something, temperature, is in the classroom. Then by collecting all such relationship, you can identify common relationship that is called relationship type. In this case, employee manage a department. Okay? So that is employee manage department. To represent such a relationship type, we can use diamond, then snake. Okay? So this is the relationship type. Just like the entity type, an entity, I'm going to say this is the relationship. That means it's a relationship type. Except your insert. Okay? So what else? Each department control a number of projects. So department control the project. What else?
Employee, each department has.
Each employee, each department,
Employee
employee manage the department. That's already done here.
So employee also could work for a department.
Yes, that is the subbullet of the third one. First, the subbullet of the third one. Each employee works for one department, right? Employee works for department. So that means how many relationships between entities? 1, 2, sometimes none. Okay? Then, May works on several projects. Works on project. We keep track of the number of hours per week that an employee works on each project. What does that mean? That means even relationship has attribute, number of hours. Okay? Even relationship can have the attribute like this. Any other? Each employee may have a number of dependents.
Attributes also dependent on the relationship.
What kind of attribute?
This, sorry, the relation name is dependent. I think the.
Oh, that's a good question. What about the name? It's the duplicate. It doesn't matter. It's not critical, but you'd better have the different name. Also, naming also very important. Somebody likes a D instead of department. So you need to try your best to represent the meaning of entity and relationship as well as the attribute name. Naming rule is very important. Who decide? First, you should rely on your project manager. Probably your project manager provide a certain naming rule, maximum 10 or minimum 5 and 2. It has something good. So in this case, employee has dependent. Okay? Yes, that's a good question. Yes.
Can two entities share the same attribute?
Two entities can share the same attribute like this
Not the relationship, only the attribute.
attribute.
Yeah.
What can be the example?
Like project has the name, and
Project has the name. This name, even though we use the same name, all names, but they are different meaning. That's good. So sometimes we can have the P name, and this is an E name, something like that, to differentiate. That's also a good idea. But it's not mandatory. It can be name. Why? If this name is employee's name, and this name is a project name. Anything else? I think pretty much.
supervisor. Direct supervisor.
Oh yes. Employee, supervise, employee, right? Employee, supervise, employee. Like the CEO supervise the vice executive. Vice executive supervise the manager. Manager supervise the employee. Something like that. At that time, employee supervise employee. That doesn't mean it's the one entity. Actually, it's a two entity, but they are the same. So this is called recursive. Recursive relationship or self relationship. So supervise. That's good. Suggestion? Anything else? Pretty much. One more thing. The last thing is dependent. Actually, my father. It's not usual to get the Concord. My usage is less than 1 hour a month. But my father right now in Hawaii to visit my sister. Hawaii time right now is the 9 o'clock or 10 o'clock. Every morning he called me. Okay, so last thing, in case of dependent, okay, there's no key. However, if you have the information about the employee, you can identify the dependent, right? Even though I have son Nicholas, she has son Nicholas, they are the same name. So we cannot use the name as a key of dependent. However, if we get the information about the employee, so my social security number and her social security number, then we can identify specific dependent. So why don't we borrow the E name, the SSN? Actually, this SSN from here. Then we can make the key like that. This time, this entity is called weak entity. Weak entity means it does not have key attribute. Then how can we make such a weak entity to strong regular entity? Borrow the key of this. So at that time we can use this one is called identifying relationship. Double diamond. This is called the double rectangle to represent weak entity. We don't have to represent here. This is a partial key. If you see the identifying relationship, automatically borrow key of this one to here, then we can make the key of weak entity. This is called weak entity. This is up to step 4. The next class we will complete the other step, the constraint on relationship and attribute of the relationship type. And additionally, we have some special case of ER modeling. That's it. ER modeling is very simple. Okay, don't be scared of the ER modeling. Throughout the semester, right, you need to bring, you better bring the handout. From time to time, I will use this handout for sample database.